My dad said it's too risky when I asked for $65,000 to start my tech company. Then he took a $625,000 loan for Joseph's BMW and failed dreams. Now he wants me to sell my home to save them? I kicked them off my doorstep. Hey Reddit, they say parents always want what's best for their children. But what happens when they believe in everyone else's dreams except yours? When my dad told me my idea was too risky and then took out a six-figure loan for my brother's BMW and business that didn't even last 6 months, I learned the truth. Not all families invest in love, some invest in pride. And pride has a price. My name is Ethan, and I was always the logical one in my family. I didn't party, didn't waste money. I worked hard, saved every penny, and dreamed of building something real. A tech company. A startup I'd been planning since college. I had the code, the design, and even a small prototype ready. All I needed was one thing, funding. So, 2 years ago, I went to my dad. He'd always been my biggest inspiration, a businessman, disciplined, respected in the community. I thought he'd understand. Dad, I said one evening, I've been working on this app for a year. It's ready for launch, but I need $65,000 to scale it. Marketing, servers, patents. He didn't even look up from his paper. $65,000? Ethan, that's a huge risk. Startups fail every day. I know, I said, but this one's different. I've already tested the model. He waved a hand. You're young. You should focus on something stable, not chasing fantasies. I swallowed hard. It's not a fantasy, Dad. It's my dream. He sighed. Dreams don't pay the bills. So, I dropped the subject. But inside, it broke me a little. My dad always said he wanted me to be independent, yet the moment I tried, he called it reckless. Still, I didn't give up. I worked extra hours, freelanced on weekends, and cut every unnecessary expense. By the end of that year, I'd saved nearly $40,000. I was getting close. Then came the news that changed everything. One morning, I walked into the kitchen to find Dad, Mom, and my older brother Joseph sitting at the table, papers spread out everywhere. Dad looked up. Ethan, we have some exciting news. Joseph grinned. I'm starting my own company. I blinked. Really? Doing what? He shrugged, still figuring it out. Maybe real estate, maybe luxury rentals. Dad chuckled proudly. Your brother's got ambition. I'm backing him up. Something in my chest tightened. Backing him up how? Dad smiled. I just approved a $625,000 loan under my name. We're getting him a car, BMW, top model. He'll need it to meet clients. I froze. Wait, $625,000? He nodded casually. It's an investment. He'll succeed. I trust him. I laughed bitterly. So my idea was too risky. But giving Joe a BMW is smart business? Dad frowned. Watch your tone. I shook my head. Unbelievable. I didn't argue further. I just walked away. But that night, lying awake, I realized something harsh. It was never about money. It was about who they believed in. And it wasn't me. 6 months later, Joseph's business was falling apart. The BMW was still shiny, but the company? Gone. Turns out, he'd spent most of the money on luxury events, parties, and poor investments. The investors pulled out. His business partner sued him. The bank froze Dad's accounts. Everything came crashing down. One evening, I got a call. Ethan, Dad said, his voice unsteady. We need to talk. When I arrived, the house looked different. Darker, quieter. Mom sat on the couch, red-eyed. Joseph was pacing. Dad gestured for me to sit. He took a deep breath. We're in trouble, son. The bank's coming for the house. The debts are piling up. We might lose everything. I nodded slowly. I see. He hesitated. You've done well for yourself, Ethan. You have that new place, the app business. We were wondering if maybe you could sell your house and help us pay off the loan. I blinked. Sell my house. He nodded. You're doing great now. You can always buy another one later. But if we don't act now, we'll go bankrupt. I let out a quiet laugh. You're asking me to give up my home. To fix your mistake? Dad stiffened. This is family. I met his eyes. Was it family when you told me my dream was worthless? Or when you refused to invest in me, but threw everything into Joseph's? Mom whispered, Ethan, please. Your father's pride. I cut her off. His pride is why you're in this mess. Then I looked at Joseph. Tell me, Joe, where's that BMW now? He looked down. Sold it. For how much? Less than half. I smiled bitterly. Of course you did. I stood up. I worked for everything I have. Every dollar. Every sleepless night. You called it risky, but my risk paid off. Dad's face darkened. You're really going to turn your back on us? I took a deep breath. No, Dad. You turned your back on me years ago. I'm just finally facing the right direction. Mom started crying. Ethan, please. Don't do this. I looked at her softly. You both made your choice. Now I'm making mine. Then, calmly, I walked to the front door, opened it, and said quietly, You can leave now. They stared at me, stunned. Dad's voice cracked. You'd kick your own parents out? I looked him in the eyes. You kicked my dreams out first. And with that, I closed the door. That night, I sat alone in silence. No guilt. No anger. Just peace. For years, I believed their approval defined my worth. But that night, I realized my worth wasn't something they could give or take away. It was mine. Always had been. But months later, something happened that made me open that door again. Not out of guilt, but out of something stronger, forgiveness. It's been 7 months since the night I kicked my parents off my doorstep. 7 months of silence, distance, and peace I hadn't known in years. In that time, my company grew faster than I imagined. We expanded, hired new developers, and even landed a major contract that tripled our revenue. I finally felt proud, not just of my success, but of myself. But then, one cold winter evening, someone knocked on my door again. When I opened it, I saw them. My mom, my dad, and behind them, Joseph. They looked nothing like the people I remembered. Their clothes were worn, their eyes tired. Even Dad's once proud posture had disappeared. Ethan, Mom whispered, her voice cracking. We didn't know where else to go. I hesitated. What happened? Dead sight. The house is gone. The bank took it. We've been renting a small place, but now the landlord's selling the property. We have to leave. I looked at Joseph. He couldn't even meet my eyes. He muttered, I tried to fix things, Ethan. Got a job, saved what I could, but it's not enough. For a moment, I didn't say a word. I just looked at them. My family broken not by bad luck, but by their own choices. And despite everything, a part of me still felt that old ache, the one that comes when love and resentment collide. I invited them in. They sat awkwardly at the kitchen table, the same table where I once signed the first contract that started my business. Mom looked around the house. You've done so well for yourself, she said softly. Dad nodded slowly. You were right. About everything. Then he looked me in the eye for the first time in years. I was a fool. I should have believed in you. I just didn't want to see you fail the way I did. I raised an eyebrow. Fail? You didn't give me the chance to. He nodded, shame in his eyes. I know. And I've paid for it every day since. Mom reached across the table. We're not asking for money this time. We just need a place to stay for a few days. Until we find something else. I sat back thinking. The old version of me, the one who craved approval, would have said yes instantly. But this wasn't about guilt anymore. It was about boundaries. I said quietly, you can stay in the guest room, but just for 2 weeks. After that, we'll figure out something long-term. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, sweetheart. Dad nodded, silent, humbled. For the first few days, the house was tense. We avoided each other mostly, polite small talk, awkward silences. But slowly, things began to shift. Dad started helping around the house, fixing shelves, mowing the lawn, even cooking breakfast once. Mom spent her time cleaning, organizing, trying to make herself useful. And Joseph, he worked quietly on his laptop, looking for steady jobs. One evening, I found him sitting on the porch, staring into the distance. He turned when he heard me. I got a job offer today, he said. Nothing fancy, just sales. But it's honest work. I smiled faintly. That's good, Joe. He nodded. Then after a pause, he said softly, I don't deserve your kindness. I ruined everything Dad gave me. I laughed when he said no to you. And now you're the one saving us. I looked out into the night. You're not wrong. But maybe this time, you'll learn what real work feels like. He nodded. I already have. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. We started eating together again, quietly at first, then with laughter. The walls between us began to crumble, slowly, painfully, but surely. Then one morning, Dad approached me while I was working. He held out an old photo, me at 16, sitting beside him with a sketch of my first tech idea. "I found this in a box we kept," he said softly. "You were always the dreamer. I was just too afraid to see it." I smiled faintly. "Fear's a powerful thing." He nodded. "So is regret." Then he said something I'll never forget. "I can't undo what I did, but I can be proud now, truly proud. You didn't just build a company, Ethan. You built yourself." For the first time in years, he put his hand on my shoulder. It wasn't heavy with control, it was gentle, almost grateful. A month later, they found a small apartment not far from mine. Before they moved out, Mom hugged me tightly and said, "You saved us again, but this time, not with money, with forgiveness." I smiled. "I didn't do it for you, Mom. I did it for me." Because forgiveness isn't about letting people back in, it's about letting the pain out. It's been over a year now. We still have our differences, but there's respect where bitterness used to be. Dad visits sometimes. We talk about business, life, and the irony of how things turned out. Joseph works steadily, pays his own bills, and even invested in one of my smaller projects. And Mom? She finally started smiling again, not because her favorite son succeeded, but because her family finally healed. I learned something through all this. When people don't believe in you, it's not your job to prove them wrong. It's your job to keep believing in yourself until they have no choice but to see it. And when they finally do, don't meet them with anger. Meet them with peace. Because that's the kind of victory that lasts forever.